ئێستاش پانێڵی سێیەم پێشکەش دەکرێت کە دوا پانێڵی ئەمڕۆمانە بە ناونیشانی فێربوونی دیجیتاڵی کارلێکارانە و کاریگەری لەسەر فێربوون. داوا لە بەڕێز شیلان خەلیل جونێت دەکەین وەک بەڕێوەبەری پانێڵ بفەرموێت بۆ سەر ستەیج. هەروەها داوا لە پانێڵستە بەڕێزەکان دەکەین بفەرمونە سەر ستەیج بە هەمان شێوە. هەر یەک لە بەڕێزان خەیری عەبدوڵڵا، شیرین البەرزەنجی، ژاک ترێدۆ، كاتارينا كامينسكا. أما الآن حان وقت تقديم القسم الثالث من الندوة والتي هي الأخيرة لهذا اليوم تحت عنوان التعلم الرقمي التفاعلي وأثره على التعلم. ندعو الأستاذة شيلان خليل جنيد التوجه نحو المنصة لتقديم الندوة، وأطلب من الأعضاء المشاركين أيضا الصعود على المنصة، كل من خيري عبدالله، شيرين البرزنجي، جاك تريدو، كاتارينا كامينسكا.
The third panel is now being presented, which is our final panel for today, titled Interactive Digital Learning and Its Impact on Education. We invite Shilan Khalil Junaid to step onto the stage as a panel moderator and also invite the esteemed panelists to step onto the stage. Khairi Abdullah, Shirin Al-Balzanji, Jacques Trudeau, and Katerina Kaminska.
Dear audience, ladies and gentlemen, happy to be again with you for the second year here and this year as a moderator. I would like to thank the audience because they have been there and I know they are exhausted. But please, before I introduce my guest, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Shilan Khalil Junaid. I'm the General Director of Planning in the Ministry of Education. And allow me to welcome my guest, Dr. Katerina Kominska. She is the Regional Director of People in Need Organization, and she has very good experience in education, as well as she has worked in many fields of education, and she has a PhD in moral philosophy since 2013, and also she has a master's degree in education of English language. Welcome, my dear Katerina. Then Mr. Jack Trudeau, he is the group of principal of British International School in Kurdistan. Welcome, Mr. Jack. Also, Mr. Jack has very good experience in education, more than 20 years experience in education, as well as he has a special passion in for education, equity, and social development. Ms. Shirin Barzanchi, she is a PhD student. She has a good experience in education in UK and Middle East, and she is now one of the leading team for the digital school run by the foundation of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum in the United Arab Emirates. My last guest is Mr. Khairi Abdullah. Mr. Khairi Abdullah is the Deputy General Manager at Marshall Cavendish Education. He is very experienced in strategic partnership with international Ministry of Education all over the world. Also, he has a very good experience in digital and CPD collaboration. Welcome, all of you. First of all, our panel is about the integration learning or the integration digital learning and its impact on education. Before we start our subject, when we were children, we usually watch movies or cartoon films about the future or what the future will bring for the human beings or the global in general. So one of the larger questions still is there in my mind when they talk about how AI will control all the jobs and maybe will come over the power of human being. So this was a very question that we have it and we don't have such an answer. I hope now this today or within the coming days, people have more clear idea about the benefit of using AI everywhere, especially for education. So let me start. I will not go according to, but according to the importance of the questions and so on. So Mr. Khairi, let me start with Mr. Khairi. From our dialogue, I know that you have a good experience in large-scale assessment, like PISA and TIMSS. We have already recently passed or have such a large-scale assessment in our Ministry of Education. So can you please give us an idea how IA in the future will be a very important tool or role in improving students' performance in such large scale?
Hello, everybody. Okay, as my colleague had introduced, I am from Singapore. And in case you've never been to Singapore, so in Singapore, we've only got a public school system. We don't have a private school system. And the alternative is actually international school. So if you look at TIMSS and PISA and PULSE, Singapore's ranked #1 in the world. So it's based on public school system results. So that's something to understand, a little bit of the background of international studies. In terms of the role of AI, so obviously AI has run a transformative journey. You can see that the AI at international studies is able to now do grading of open-ended question. It reduces human biasness. It increases consistencies. And a very important thing that we do, working with the Ministry of Education, is this thing called adaptive learning. So that's the tool that the AI has a functionality. The other part of the AI that's the emerging trend is obviously to do predictive modeling of intervention of students who are at risk. In other words, the AI will guess, how can I help students who are struggling? The other part of it is the role of AI to do personalized communication, sort of like a chatbot to help the students and the teachers. So these are some of the functionalities at international studies that's very important for us in Singapore. And moving away a little bit from international studies, Singapore has been using AI. This year, 2025, is the third year we're using AI. Every single student has their individual AI account.
Thank you. So may I ask you another question related to the same subject? So I know that any part of the world who decide to participate in such large scale, we didn't expect to have a good, let's say, level or rank of performance for students, especially in those first year. So how you overcome this, that you begin in, you transfer your country from those for having the lower performance to the best one or best student performance?
Okay, I think this question is more related, not so much at AI yet, but to understand the background. So Singapore took part for the very first time in PISA in 2009. It never took part in PISA before that. And for those of you who're not familiar, PISA tests you for literacy and real-world problems. And then you've got another international study called TIMSS, Trans-International Math and Science Study. It's conducted by Boston College. That tests you for pedagogy and curriculum. So Singapore took part in 4 TIMSS before it took part in PISA, because TIMSS focuses on curriculum. So the Singapore government feels that you cannot do well in PISA if your curriculum and pedagogy is not strong. So when Singapore took part in PISA for the very first time in 2009, it was ranked #3. Not bad for a first-timer. But what was concerning for the government was not the result. It's actually the 15% of the students who scored non-level 2. So if you understand PISA, PISA states that for any economy in the world, you must have a minimum level 2 to produce quality workforce. If you don't have level 2, you're in serious trouble. So Singapore fixed that by focusing on the non-level 2. So the recent PISA 2022, we're now consistently doing #1. But the government doesn't care about the rank. It's about the quality of delivery. The role of AI. We did a AI project, we did a PIM study, a PISA study with the Central Asian economies, and it produced good results where we're now working with the World Bank to actually do a study comparing traditional learning and teaching versus the role of AI to support teachers. So this is an efficacy we're doing with one of the ministries sponsored by the World Bank to do a 6-month test to see the efficacy and the role of AI as a supporter, not as a replacement of the teacher.
Thank you. Ms. Shreen, I will return back to you as someone having PhD in AI, and I know closely we are working together in a digital school. So may I ask you a question? I know that in the United Arab Emirates they are very advanced in using AI in different aspects of life. So as a specialist in AI, how can the project or the project of digital school or using of AI will help the Ministry of Education all over, or especially in the MENA area, to improve their learning?
Thank you for the question. I just want to take this opportunity, firstly, to thank Ms. Shilan for the invitation.
Thank you.
We are very happy to be here at the Kurdistan Education Forum. I also want to take this opportunity just to kind of familiarize the audience, if I may, on the digital school. So the digital school is actually one of the global initiatives that was introduced by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. His vision is really to empower and provide an opportunity to cater for the sector of education. Now, on your question, I'm going to kind of give you two answers. I'll give you the digital school answer, but I'll also give you my lens as well as a PhD researcher. So for us at the digital school, we work with the ministries. We never intend to come and replace anything. So as you mentioned, we have worked very closely with the ministry here in Erbil, and we're extremely grateful for their collaboration. We have digitalized the curriculum. The digital school has had its presence in 2021. We piloted, I believe, in a handful of schools, and that has grown over the years, and we're hoping to reach 100. On the note of AI, it does begin with digitalizing the curriculum, having the teachers on board, and to make sure that they are trained. Because as the students from Shweifat mentioned earlier, teachers are not going to be replaced. Teachers are the heart and the solid foundation that will always be in existence in a classroom. AI will be used as a tool, and it's about upskilling yourself and ensuring that you cater for the needs and that you are keeping up with the research and the trends. Because students are a lot smarter than us, and they will be way ahead. So as a teacher, it's extremely important that you are doing professional development, that you are training yourself, and that you are prepared. Because if you're not, it's going to be very, very tricky. Having said that, I also think that, with what TDS do, we do a lot of content creation. So if we can use AI to prepare the content a lot quicker, this actually saves time, and it gives the teacher the valuable time that they need to do things like guidance, mentorship. Earlier in the panel, there was a gentleman who was talking about social and emotional learning. Those are the kind of things that are extremely important, and that's what I mean about the heart of a classroom will always be a teacher. They will continue to be doing that, but it's important to do that with the use of AI. Another thing that is important to mention is the training. So at the digital school, we have digitally available courses to ensure that the teachers are well prepared. And I highly recommend that this is encouraged. As a PhD student, my specialism is actually on the use of AI with special educational needs. There are so many students who have the likes of autism and dyslexia and things like that, and there is an assumption and a misconception that they are not able. This is not true. So I think a tool tools can be used, AI can be used to ensure that we can make it as an inclusive environment.
Yes, Ms. Shri, I'm quite interested in that part which you already mentioned about SEED or special education learning. I think that this part of learning have been misunderstood and they didn't get enough support about it. So according to your own experience and according to how can AI help those students to improve the quality and the quality and their level of understanding and make their learning process easier for them?
Thank you for that question because I think it's really, really important. I am actually an educator by trade and I have opened 2 special educational needs schools in London. So for me, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I truly believe that students with special educational needs have the capabilities. AI can be used in so many different ways, and if you don't mind, I'll share an example. I had a selectively mute student, and this student did not speak and would not speak. And I had to try and be as creative as possible and find tools to ensure that she felt part of the classroom. And it's the small things that you can do, text to speech, anything to make things easier for a dyslexic students, to make them feel a part of the classroom, because once they feel that it is an inclusive classroom and their voice is heard, that's when you will see progress. However little it might be, that is a step forward. So I definitely feel that there is a lot of things that we can do as educators, as policymakers, to ensure that actually they're not forgotten.
Yeah, thank you. I will go back to Mr. Jack. Mr. Jack, from your own vision and experience, as someone experienced in curricula and publishing curricula, participating with Ministry of Education. So how, according to your experience, that the IA will play a role in curricula designing, producing curricula, and so on?
Yeah, thank you first of all for having me.
Thank you.
First of all, the curriculum developers are all bound by what's happening in each country. So it's quite refreshing to see that countries are starting to talk more and more, educational departments, about how to incorporate AI. As countries are more open to incorporate AI, also the same for the different examination boards. So, for example, I'm part of British International School, Kurdistan, and we use AP exam board as well as SAT, which form part of the college board, as well as the British exams. And they are all still very much pen and paper. So we all continue, as much as we want to introduce AI and as much as the curriculum developers want to introduce it, the college boards, the Pearsons, the Cambridge, they must all open. And because ultimately we must still prepare the students for the way they will be assessed at the end of the day. And I know that at some stage they did discuss about AI and assessment. So currently your curriculum developers are bound by that. But in the meantime, for example, if you take Pearson, if you take Cambridge, if you take these AP boards, they are starting to bring in more curriculum where they share with textbooks, but also, for example, ebooks. So they're trying to make it more interactive as much as they can. But I still feel that they'll always be limited by what the countries, the education departments, and what the examination boards allow. But they're creating an ecosystem. They're creating an ecosystem of a combination between curriculum, technology, teacher support, and as well as analytics. And I think this is where, if you talk about assessment, which is a different component, but when you start talking about assessments and how you assess, that's where AI also can start getting in by how you do your analytics. And for example, and he also alluded to it, you can start getting answers quickly. You don't have to wait for the teacher to go and mark 2 or 3 days and then give it back. It can become a little bit more instant. And I think that again is what your curriculum developers and your textbook writers, that's what they're trying to incorporate. But your parent is still not ready to do away with textbooks, especially in your Middle East market. This is now the second country where I work, and parents are not ready to do away with textbooks. Yes, they don't want heavy bags, so they are happy for a textbook to be there. But a school bag, they don't want a heavy school bag, so they're happy that the textbook is digital. But your parents stole, and then internationally they still want a textbook as well. And this is where, again, where it makes it more difficult for your digital developers. And the question is, how ready is the public for AI? So we are doing it, the curriculum developers want to introduce it, but the consumer, how ready are they for it? And this is where we need to do a much more education for the parents of how this will be incorporated in schools. And all of this that I've now said do influence how curriculums are being developed and how examinations are being done by exam boards. So, and then also the question that you ask as well, and we see it more and more, you saw it in COVID, everybody was longing to come back to class and have a teacher in front of them. So I agree with them, there's always a component for AI, but I don't think in general the public is ready, just that technology take fully over.
So your advice for the Minister of Education, for example, in the morning, His Excellency, the Minister of Education, declare or announce My School platform. It's an interactive digital learning. So do you suggest for the Ministry of Education, in parallel with getting students familiar, they should bring the parents inside the classroom? So what's your idea about you make kind of awareness, or what kind of a training you suggest about
Absolutely.
this?
You have to bring the parent on board because the student is the one in classroom, but ultimately your parent is the payer. They're the consumer. They're the actual customer besides your student. And they need to understand what you're doing. They need to understand that assessing in a different way and delivering the curriculum in a different way is not just the same, it's even better than the ways before. And that they can trust it. And you're dealing with different generations here. You know, you're dealing with generations that were schooled by chalk and board, and they're not used to what we're doing now. So, and I think that is also, a lot of schools has brought in iPads and things in schools, but they didn't really explain to the parents what they're using it for and how they're doing it, and therefore parents are kicking against it because they say it's too much screen time. We as a school, we're going to introduce it now, but again, just by testing it with the market, you realize again that parents feel my child is in any case way too much on screen. We know you need to channel it and explain. So the more you explain to the parent, the better they will understand. And of course, a big thing parents will always ask, what you offer here, will it be accepted if they want to go and study abroad? And that is also one thing you must ensure your parents continues to say, yes, what we do here, how we assess their certificate they get is just as good as anybody else, and they can go into any university abroad, depends on their marks and what exam board they've used. And that's again very important, education, because just from, I've been a year and a half in Kurdistan, and I can just continue seeing there's a hunger for the parents to understand what is the importance of the different system, even just from local and international, what's the difference and how does it really advantage my kids or not? So absolutely, you have to pull them in next to you the whole time and explain to them what you're doing.
Thank you. Dear Dr. Catherine, you have now a good experience in Kurdistan and dealing with the job and the plan and the strategy that have been done from different, let's say, NGOs and those who are working in humanitarian or education. As someone working in this sector, so from your own perspective, what do you think that the role should the NGOs play in supporting the ministry or supporting education, especially dealing with the use of AI or the digital learning?
Thanks for the question. I might not have a complex answer.
Of course.
And because, of course, many of the organizations have different capacities or different approaches to how to improve the education in the country where they work. But also from this perspective, how to support, as an NGO sector, the strategy of Ministry of Education to digitalize, to increase the access to technology in the learning. There are so many levels, and you know it yourself. Like there is infrastructure, the need for infrastructure. There is the need for having the tools, as we were talking about the website, etc. Or how, for example, even Ministry of Education successfully transited to remote teaching during COVID. That's all these things. There are lots of investment, there are lots of needs there, but I would say that as an NGO worker and as a person who is personally involved in education programming of our organization, I think our biggest added value would be and should be to continue supporting preparation of teachers who will be supporting the transition. Because the infrastructure, the tools, they have to come from your ownership. They have to come from the ministry, because that's something that you will keep doing and working on. And maybe there could be some consultation and technical know-how from global perspective. But in the end, NGOs who are working directly with schools, how they can help is to actually prepare the teachers, how to include the digitalization, the new technical tools, the AI to education system. And by that, I don't mean only training or capacitating teachers to use the technology and AI tools, but I also think we need to capacitate them that even if they are not directly responsible for using AI in their classroom, they are adapting their classrooms in the way they improve critical thinking, collaboration skills, and participatory approaches in their learning process. So the children will not get the skill how to switch on and switch off the computer or how to use specific app, but will learn how to think about which tools to use and which tools could help them to learn faster or in a more effective way. So I believe that, and let's be honest, that's a general problem in many countries. Teachers, you will never have all the teachers able to use technology or AI tools in their classrooms. But that doesn't mean that they cannot introduce in their classroom, whatever the topic is, aspects of collaboration, participation, interactive learning, and critical thinking. So I think we should lead the teachers to change the approach how they teach, which could prepare in a later stage the children to learn about technology. So I think that's something where I believe NGO sectors and actors could step in and support, and to transfer a little bit traditional frontal teachings methodologies to more participatory and collaborative.
I will move to my second question, but I think my other dear guests, they can comment in this question, because since the morning I have seen this subject have been introduced in a different way. So I will start with Catherine. There are a concern about the emotional learning of students if we use the AI and the technology in our learning, and the lack of having peer work, for example, collaboration with other, let's say those social relationship. So can you comment on this question, please?
I'm happy to. I think, and it was already mentioned by Mr. Jacques, that we could see how children were happy to return to school. Why? Because school is not only educational facility, it's their social club. They are interacting there, they are learning there how to be members of the community. So I believe that however we will digitalize the education, we need to keep the the social aspect of education system in it. So that children will need to feel safe and happy to return to schools. That's one of the things. And what I was also meaning by that is sometimes we are coming up with elaborated digital tools and we are saying they are like interactive and they are increasing the digital literacy of the children. But for example, it's enough just to look at how we are using them. We should not use them in isolation. We should use them to, for example, mainstream collaboration between students. So not to give a task to individual students with the AI tool, but to, for example, use the tools to create projects that will be group projects, and always to lead into collaboration that could empower and strengthen that even if we are digitalizing and aiming on technology, it will keep these emotional and social interactions there. So that's maybe just a simple methodological answer from a previous teacher.
Thank you. Any comment from my other guest about the emotional learning? And yes,
I'll just mention one thing, which is I think the fear comes from what happened during COVID-19, the pandemic. We had to be very reactive, and I think a lot of people are fearful of what that looked like. But I think if we plan accordingly and we take into considerations the things that need to remain, I absolutely agree. It needs to still be in classrooms and it needs to be incorporated within the curriculum. But I think it's not going to look like what it looked like during the pandemic. That was sudden, that was us having to be reactive, and unfortunately we kind of had to be experimental as well. I think we are now in a different space where there is so many improvements within technology and AI is progressing, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a tool and it's going to be used alongside the teacher, but the teacher will always be the heart of a classroom.
And can I just really short,
Yeah,
like
please.
you mentioned that we need to react and we started to be very experimental. I love that about COVID. I think many of the long experienced teachers of 10, 20 years, they were challenged. And I think that was the best part of, I know that most of the teacher will be like, no, what she's talking about. But for them to put them outside of the comfort zone, show which teachers actually really still have the drive to change the approach. And that's a starting point for them to be prepared for the new ways of teaching with technology, with AIs, with any other tools.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'll move to my next question to Mr. Khairi. Mr. Khairi, there is a kind of learning called home-based learning. It's a kind of learning which help people, especially special needs students and those who are living in rural area. So can you give us an idea about such type of learning?
Okay. I'll share the term home-based learning, how it started in Singapore. So in 2003, we had a pandemic and schools were closed for 3 weeks. So the ministry said that never again will this country not be ready for a pandemic. So in 2004, 5, 6, we introduced digital textbooks via PDFs. In 2007, we introduced digital textbooks for the very first time. So when we introduced interactive digital textbooks in 2007, the government made sure that in 1 day a month, the children do not go to school. That's why it's called home-based learning. So they were using Teams, Zoom, Google Classroom, and they were learning from home. So it's mandatory that teachers had to switch on the camera, the students had to switch on the camera, and that's how they coined home-based learning. So when COVID happened, Singapore was very fortunate because of the home-based learning. We only had to close schools for 40 days. So throughout the COVID, we only closed schools for 40 days because we were ready for a pandemic. And at that point in time, the use of technologies came in, sorry, not technology, but AI. We introduced AI in 2023, where it's mandatory that our textbooks, our e-textbooks, had to put an AI component inside it. So you can see how we transition from home-based technology and then the AI behind it. In terms of support, In Singapore, our teachers communicate with the parents very frequently. The parents have frequent school meetings where they tell the parents what's happening from a pedagogical part, from a technology part. And of course, even with the parents' talk, no parent will still understand because we call them old school. They would still learn the traditional way. So at the government level, the government has allocated a substantial amount of money that every Singapore citizen is allowed to do what we call a reskilling. So there's a lot of AI courses for adults now, so they can go on to help the children and they themselves do not get left out. So we don't only focus on the children, we also focus on adults. And at the lesser privileged students, the special needs, we have this thing called Learning Support Program. It's introduced by the ministry where the slower kids, whether it's dyslexic, whether it's autistics, they get pulled out of the class and the parents are notified. So through technology, the parents will then teach or support their children through growth mindset or productive struggle initiatives. So that's how the lesser able students are not left out. So these are all efforts to combine so that whether it's the special needs students or students who are not savvy enough are not left out.
Thank you. Shirin, I will come back to you. Capacity building and teacher capacity building. I know that now you are having a very large program for training teachers digitally with Arizona University. You have already made. Can you please talk me about the capacity building of teachers and the connection of this program with the use of AI?
Sure. So the UAE is taking AI extremely seriously. We have a Minister of AI, His Excellency Omar bin Sultan Al-Ulama, and he is actually our board member. So it demonstrates how critical this is and the way that we need to be moving forward. In addition to that, His Highness has also introduced mandatory AI learning within classrooms in public schools in the UAE. In addition to that, there are initiatives such as the 1 million prompters. So all of that is being incorporated within the classroom, which kind of takes me back to the point that I was making about the training. It is so important to upskill the teachers to ensure that when they are in the classroom, they are able to support and provide and use AI as a tool. This isn't a matter of replacing, no teacher will be replaced. With reference to the training program, DEGA, the Digital Educator Training Program is put in place to try and support teachers to do that. And we have kind of various levels, and we're very lucky to have started this with the ministry here in Erbil, and we have a lot of exciting an exciting journey to come with regards to that. For teachers, I think what is important is that they become experimental. Again, it was mentioned earlier, there was the sense of fear with regards to, this is how I've learned how to do things, this is how I will remain, it needs to be traditional. But once you take them out of the comfort zone, once you remove them from that box, they're able to actually see things, having a growth mindset, ensuring that things are done in a way that perhaps it was different to what it was like before. My schooling was extremely different too. I'm sure everybody here has a different experience with their schooling. And I think we just need to remove the layer of the fear and start moving forward with regards to what education looks like, because it does have a reform. We are moving towards something that is different, but it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just different.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jack, I will return back to you. You know that critical thinking, problem solving is an issue. Those skills we want every child or every learner know about it or use it and know how to use it. So with the use of AI, do you expect that we will make a progress in our understanding for the critical thinking, for those skills which the students need, and how the future curriculum will be designed according to those skills?
Yeah, I think we actually, as a staff, we discussed it in this week. I think the whole thing about critical thinking, because one of the staff members said he's scared that the students will stop doing critical thinking and won't be required. I actually just completed my MBA, and my exam was not textbooks anymore. It was, they opened all tools for me. I was just not allowed to have somebody in the room with me, and I allowed it on my cell phone. But it actually was about how good do I do research. And I think this is where critical thinking will come in more and more. It's, we actually can create students that can actually do research. Your average student now that's graduating from schools internationally, and when they go to universities, they struggle to do research. But we can actually train them, and this is also where you need to make sure that your teachers actually know what is research and how you do research. But you can actually, you have a wealth of information now that you can go and dig in, and you can apply critical thinking off of all that information that's available, how to apply it to your problem. So we're moving away from textbook learners, from guys that have everything available, and they can dig deep in their answers and give you real solutions. The big fear about AI, the big problem about AI is, we all know, and a gentleman in the previous panel said it, AI is what we feed it. So AI is not always correct. And this is also, when you're going to dig into research, again, you as an educator need to know your content to understand that this person's research is not correct or correct. And again, so again, what we're doing now in schools, is it correct? Is it not correct? Are they on the right track? But now, instead of bringing me a textbook back here and giving on paper, you're actually allowing to do research. And I think this is also where your curriculum developers are starting to get clever in the same sense, and they understand that the kids have a wealth of information that they can access, and with AI as well. So they make it also more interactive. They're also bringing in more gamification. So we all know that our kids, the majority go home and they switch on their PlayStations and they continue with that. So make the curriculum more interesting, more current. And that's what AI does. It makes it more current. Your curriculum developers make sure that the curriculum in linking with AI is current. The examples are current. Teachers can use it as well. But again, one thing that I also will echo that keeps going, the staff needs to be trained. If you think about when COVID hit, as they also said, we were reactive. We need to be proactive, but also now you're saying to staff, there's AI, there's all the tools, but they get confused. It's too much out there. So as a school, as a educational institution, you need to assist your teachers to say, all right, we're going to channel it in this direction, and this is what we will use. So for example, you have AI, and AI is linking now with an app called Cahoots as well. You need to train your staff and help them and channel them, because otherwise I can see some of my staff, they say there's so much to choose from, where do I go? Another thing that the curriculum developers are bringing in, and it links to SEN as well, is differentiation. So now with the curriculum, you can differentiate easier, because we all knew that's the new word in classrooms. Are you differentiating? Meaning, am I teaching to each student's level in my class? And then the next sector as well is, how are you assessing your skills as well? Are you assessing each child on their level, or are you just benchmarking? And that's also where AI is helping with that. And then of course, with the curriculum, it's also helping the staff with planning. So now they can put the topic in, and it's current planning and topics that's in there. But again, a school needs to be able to have sections or departments or HODs in place to make sure that what they do is correct, because as I said, it's such a wealth of knowledge. So that is, I think, the main things that curriculum developers and your college boards and all those are now taking into account when they look at this. But yeah, I think the big fear is we're all doing the same thing of we've done in COVID. We're saying to the teachers, there, swim. It's not necessary. Just take the foot from the petrol, just a little bit. Get them gradually in there and make sure that what you do is quality. Because also listening to principals from across the world, some schools, some boards are pushing it, and you can see that quality is becoming a big issue as well. So the more you push it, the more you must just make sure that your quality assurance is in place, and that's what education is also about, is to ensure that you never lose your quality. And the last component is where, especially for SEN, this year as well, we've done a whole educational needs department, totally different. We also call it education with heart. But again, we are bringing there a lot of these kind of tools in place to make sure that we're catering for each student's needs. So, sorry, a long-winded answer, but that is what's happening now in curriculum development.
Yes, Ms.
I was just going to add one layer, which I'm not sure we've kind of we've discreetly talked about it, but actually is the ethical considerations when it comes to AI and the fact that we're actually dealing with vulnerable students. It's really important that we take this into consideration alongside that training, because they are vulnerable, they will be exposed to a lot, they already are being exposed to so much, and it's important for teachers to know how to support, because I think that's where that fear comes from. It's important to safeguard the students, but when you're exposing them to something that might give you an answer that might be inaccurate, that takes time and experimenting to kind of figure out what the right steps to take are.
A question come to my mind now. From my experience as a teacher, I know that children, especially those who are in the kindergarten and the first grade of education, they use their imagination a lot. They imagine worlds, things, and even imaginative dialogues between some character they created. Do you think that it's a general question for all of you? Do you think the use of IA will feed this generation or imagination in those children, or will it reduce it to be more realistic?
Maybe I will just be critical to this question itself, because I think we should leave the imagination, the childhood imagination to their childhood. That's fine. AI should not touch it. That's their childhood. But what AI can do, and we have to, again, in reflection to the vulnerability, to the exposure to AI, we have to prepare them that what AI produce, it's sometimes based on the data that they have and their interpretation, a fake. And it's an imagination that is coming from AI, and how they differentiate that. So I would like the childhood, this innocent childhood creativity and imagination, I would leave them to that. I will not include AI to that, but to prepare them that what comes from AI can be imagination as well, and we need to assess that. And going back to critical thinking. Sorry.
Yeah, I've seen, for example, where in pre-KG and KG, the teacher will say to them, draw a picture of your dreams. So they're still imagining and they're drawing it. But then you can take that and to digitalize it in AI, and AI actually make it alive of what they just drawn. So there you are using a component of digitalization and AI, but it's still what they've done, and then it goes that route. And then also, that's the way I think for pre-KG, KG, and even year 1, 2, and 3, you do it little bit by little bit, and this was a simple example of how you can still use it, but also still have them being creative.
This is actually something that this little by little, what I was saying, that we don't have to have all the teachers ready to use AI. We need to have them ready to bring this sort of other aspects to that, so later they will be able to use AI.
Absolutely.
So that in kindergarten, maybe they don't need to use it, but they have to start preparing themselves how to use it later.
No, I fully agree.
Anyhow, I think we started a bit late and our audience get tired. So I think I will go to the audience question to answer a few of those questions. اگر برایزه که بسیارک هبتن پی خوشحال دبین ولام بدین بله برایزم
دەستان خۆش بێ دوای دەستخۆشیم بۆتان من مامۆستا ئاری بەڕێوەبەری کۆمەڵی پەروەردەیی سامی حسەن نازم لە سلەیمانی سەرسام بووم بە پرسیارێک کە خاتوو شیرین ئاڕاستەی بەڕێز خەیری کرد بەوەش کە ئایا بەبێ بوونی مامۆستا خوێندکار ئەتوانێت فێر بێت لە سیستمی پەروەردە یان لە بڵین زیرەکی دەستکردا فێردیناڵدی سۆسێر زانایی بەناوبانگی سویسری لە زمانەوانیە باز لەوە ئەکاڵێگەر مرۆڤ بیوێ قسە بکە ئەوەی کە بەکاری ئێنێ بۆ قسەکردن زمانە زمان مەبەستم لوغە نییە مەبەستم لیسانە واتە ئەم زمانی کە ئێستا من قسەی پێەکەم بەبێ ئەوە من ناتوانم قسە بکەم و ئەگەر بتێ شانۆگەریەک پێشکەشکەی ئەزانی بەبێ بوونی دیکۆر یان بەبێ بوونی مۆسیقا یان بەبێ بوونی ناوی چی عەفوم کە میوزیک و دیکۆر و تەنانەت هەموو ئەوانە نابێ بە شانۆگەری کەواتە ئەوەی کە زمانی شانۆگەریە ئەکتەرە ئەزانی لە سیستمی پەروەردەیە ئەو زمانە بوونی مامۆستایە ئایا با پرسیارەکەمان وا بکەین ئایا بەبێ بوونی مامۆستا سیستمی پەروەردە بەڕێواچێ و ئایا ئەلتەرناتیڤی بەدیلی بوونی مامۆستا ئایا ئەبێتە زیرەکی دەستکرد وەک ئەوەی کە دکتۆر محەممەد خانی ئاماژەی پێیان لە پانێڵی یەکەمە باسی لەوە کرد کە گەورەترین کێشە زۆربەی کات نەبوونی ئەو هەستە سایکۆلۆژیە لە بینی خوێندکار و مقابلت بەرامبەر کە مامۆستایە واتە ئەو سۆزە ئایا چۆن دروست ئەبێ و چۆن بتوانی ئەمە بەڕێبکەیت دەستان خۆش بێ سپاس بۆیە
پرسیارەکە بوشترین خان بوو وایە مامۆستا بەڕێز
یەک کێشەم نییە هەچ کامێکیان جواب بنەوە
The question was about the teacher. He asked about that if there is no teacher inside the classroom, can anyone replace the teacher, even the AI, as I understand the question? Especially for the native language or the mother language.
My quick answer will be no. Especially when you deal with teenagers, they can never be left alone. So I'm a strong believer that a teacher, education is probably one of the few industries that will be fully automized or taken over by AI. They will always need that contact in the classroom. And we all know as well, we all have been in systems or places where it's automated, but eventually you need somebody to ask a question how to clarify something. So I can't ever see that will change. Doesn't matter how good AI is unless you go to a point where the kids are being schooled from home like we had in COVID. And I might be short-sighted, but I can't see that we'll go that route.
Ms. Shireen, if you want.
I think I'm going to echo what my colleague has just said. The answer is no. Having said that, there are specific scenarios where I would say that yes, AI can be used in a way that would be beneficial. There are underserved communities that might not necessarily have exposure or a teacher that is always there. So you could have a hybrid model where they can have a platform and they can talk to a chat box or something that is AI generated. But in reality, schooling, education is an experience. And if I ask anybody here in the audience to tell me something about their experience, they will most likely tell me about an experience that they've had with a teacher. And it's something that a teacher that has given you or said to you that has uplifted you or empowered you. And that experience is something that has stayed with you for life. I, for one, if you ask me about my school experience, I don't think I'll remember what happened necessarily in a classroom or anything like that. But actually, I can name specific teachers or specific instances where something happened, and for me it was something that was very, very powerful. For a teacher, they may have not even noticed it. So in some cases, possibly, but as my colleague said, this is the one industry where I just don't believe that we will ever replace a teacher.
Thank you. Barry Mamsta, pardon.
مامۆستا ئەحمەد گەرمیانی سەرۆکێتی مامۆستایان دەستخۆشی لەم کۆڕبەندیەکەم هیوادارم هەموو ساڵێک لە پێشکەوتندا بێت و حتمما جیاوازیەک هەیە لە نێوان ئیمساڵ لەگەڵ ساڵانی ڕابردوو کە ئیمساڵ دەبینین لە ڕێگەی تەکنۆلۆژیە و شتێکی جوان و ڕێکوپێک دەستخۆشی لە وزارەتی پەروەردە دەکەین بۆ ئەنجامدانی حتما هەممان دەزانین جیاوازیەکی ڕۆژانە دروست دەبێت لە تەکنۆلۆژیا چ زمانێک هەیە بۆمان کە هەموو قوتابیان لە هەموو ئاستەکان لە هەموو ناوچەکان لەمە دەزانین تەکنۆلۆژیا لە هەموو ناوچەکان نابێت گوند لەگەڵ شارۆچکە شارۆچکە لەگەڵ شار لەگەڵ پایتەخت و وڵات لەگەڵ وڵات چ زمانێک هەیە کە هەموو قوتابیان بە یەکسانی ئەو تەکنۆلۆژیان پێ بگێت کەس لێی مەحروم نەبێت.
The question is about that, how we can make assure or guarantee that all students will get the same level of education or having the same program or having the same tools and facility for getting AI in urban or rural area or a different type of people. So which way that we can guarantee that?
I would say what, sorry, go.
Right.
No, I would say if you want to go equal and make sure everybody's got the same opportunities, your educators in rural areas are just more disadvantaged because they're not in circles or within other schools or can meet other teachers as much as the teachers in the main cities can. So that's why, for example, a hybrid system can work, where a teacher what we, for example, had in COVID, where you can do it through Google Classroom and etc. AI not necessarily doing it itself, but you can have it in a hybrid system where if you feel that there are classes or topics or subjects that the teachers may be in a main area or because of disadvantaged areas, they can have the same facilities or the same lessons, then that can work. But I still want to go back to the same point. It will not be AI doing it. It will be, again, there will be an educator in the same classroom than those kids, but you might just use it from the outside where somebody is teaching that subject and are helping those ones in the disadvantaged communities. I think that's the way, and I know a lot of countries already does that to equalize education.
Sorry, Kadri, I will take Mr. Khairi because he wants to comment.
I have sort of like a reply that's from the earlier question and the second question. So the project we're doing with the World Bank, initially one of the terms of reference that the World Bank wanted to ask was, can you make the AI to be a substitute of the teacher? And we said no. We can only make the AI as a supporter, definitely not a substitute. You cannot replace the teacher. And coming to the second point, so the AI that we've done, that we're working for the Singapore government and all that, is basically an adaptive AI. The role is identify, intervene, and remediate. So all the students are given the same conceptual question, and then the AI will then adjust depending on the response, and it's immediate, it's real time. And the teacher then gets the dashboard to see the results of the student. Was it a conceptual error? Was it a calculation error? Was it a child that's clueless? Because our classroom size in Singapore is 1 teacher, 45 students. So the teacher does not have time to teach every single 45 students. That's where the AI can actually remediate and assist. So it cannot be a standalone, but it's a complement and a supporter to the teacher.
There is a question from the... Yes, sorry, my dear.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just also want to bring the topic a little bit to Kurdistan. Because I think it's very important to understand that in Kurdistan, from my perspective, if we are talking about digitalization, technology to education, the strategy of Ministry of Education is amazing and it's reflecting the global reality. Does it reflect the reality of Kurdistan? Not really sure. If we are talking about using AI tools, digitalization, lots of work was done to make it systematic so everyone will have access to the same things. On the other hand, there are huge discrepancies. The technology, AI tools, preparation of the teachers that we are talking in this beautiful vision, we can see it maybe in private school systems. Public schools, I would say that that's totally different story. I will say there are lots of infrastructural gaps that needs to be addressed, and then even looking into urban and rural, where we know lots of vulnerable communities are still living and not having this access. So I think we should really have 3 different or 4 different discussions just on that exact thing, because we have 4 different approaches and systems within Kurdistan education system.
One question come from, I think, Mr. Mohammed Hussam. I take it from those who have written their question. Very important question saying that IA and TVET, you didn't talk about AA and TVET. That was a good subject to speak about it. But I think that we have covered many subjects. We leave that. So any one of you want to answer this question? What is the future of TVET with the use of AI?
I don't have a specific answer, but I just briefly mention the fact that it is important to contextualize learning. When you contextualize learning through things like simulations and training, students get a taster of what works looks like, which essentially will allow them to build the skills that they need in order for them to take to the workplace. So AI plays a huge role in that. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet.
Thank you. So no, if any comment, thank you so much for you to have you today with us. And really you have give us great information. I hope that we will have another chance to talk about many things because yesterday we enjoy our talking in the group. Thanks a lot for all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the audience. I think, yeah. Dr. زۆر سپاس دووبارە دەزانم بەڕێزان زۆر پرسیارتان هەیە بەس وابزانم هەمووتان ماندینە و ئێمە تۆزەکەی تەخیر بوونژی لە سکاجوەڵی خۆمان سوپاسی هەمووتان دەکەمەوە کە گوهداری ئێمەتان کرد و ئەو معلوماتتان وەرگرت زۆر زۆر سپاس مەمنونتان دەبم هیوادارم هەمووتان ببینین سبەینێ لە پانێڵێکی تازە و ڕۆژێکی تازە لە ئەو بوونەی ئەمڕۆمان ڕێکخستی زۆر زۆر سپاسی هەمووتان دەکەمەوە. Gracias.